Today, we're going to talk about something that's happening behind closed doors in millions of homes, but it's still one of society's biggest taboos: family estrangement. It's often painted as this sudden, cruel, or selfish act, but the psychology behind the decision to actually walk away, it's way more profound, it's complex, and honestly, it's usually rooted in a deep, deep need for survival. So let's get into it. This right here, this is where it all begins. It's not some big, dramatic moment of rage. It's a moment of quiet, terrifying clarity. It's that gut-wrenching realization that to go back inside that house, to go back to the way things were, would cost you something you just can't afford to lose anymore, yourself. And that isn't a failure. For so many people, it's the start of a really painful but absolutely necessary journey.
So how does a person even get to that point, sitting in their car, unable to go in? Well, the first thing we have to understand is that estrangement is almost never sudden. It just looks that way from the outside. In reality, it's the result of this slow, invisible erosion that's been happening for years, sometimes decades.
Right. The final break isn't caused by one huge fight or one big betrayal. It's the buildup, the cumulative weight of countless tiny, invalidating moments. Think about it. A dismissive comment that's passed off as just trying to help. A joke that has that little sting of truth to it. A boundary that you set that just gets bulldozed with a casual, "Oh, don't be so sensitive." And there's a psychological term for this: microtrauma. Now, individually, any one of these moments seems small, right? Easy to brush off. But when you put them all together, they create this emotional climate. And over time, your body starts to learn. Your shoulders tense up when their name pops up on your phone. You start rehearsing conversations in your head. You learn to make yourself smaller just to keep the peace. And that's exactly why the final break so often seems to come out of nowhere to the rest of the family. It's what we can call the volcano effect. An eruption only looks sudden if you weren't paying attention to the ground shaking and the pressure building underneath for years. That last argument, it wasn't the cause. It was just the moment the pressure finally became too much to hold in anymore. Okay, but that brings up a huge question. If it's so painful, why do people stay for so long? I mean, for decades sometimes. So let's deconstruct this idea that leaving is selfish by looking at the really powerful psychological forces that keep people tethered to these dynamics. The famous psychologist Carl Jung talked about this. He called it individuation. It's this natural, necessary, and often pretty painful process of figuring out who you are separate from your family. But in some family systems, that very natural process is seen as a betrayal. It forces a person into an impossible choice. And you can really see that choice here. In healthy families, there's room to grow, to disagree, to become your own person. But in enmeshed families, there's just no space. Love is conditional. Your life choices are treated like a direct reflection on your parents. And the devastating truth a child in that system learns is this: I can be connected to you, or I can be myself, but I cannot be both. In these systems, you don't really get to discover your own identity. It's assigned to you. Maybe you were cast as the golden child who had to be perfect, or the scapegoat, the one who carried the blame for everyone else's problems. And when you think about it like that, estrangement isn't just about leaving your family. It's about escaping a role that was slowly suffocating you. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't from the bad things that happened, but from the good things that were consistently missing. It's this pain of emotional neglect. It's like going back to an empty well again and again and again, hoping this time there will be water. Eventually, you have to leave, not just because of the hurt, but because you have to stop dying of thirst for a love that was never really there. People also get stuck in this brutal cycle. It starts with a little bit of hope. Maybe this time will be different. And for a little while, it is. Behavior improves. But then it slides right back to the old, painful patterns, and you land right back in that familiar place of hurt. This cycle can go on for years, and it's exhausting. It's fueled by hope for the person they could be, not the person they consistently show you they are. And then there's something called trauma bonding. This is when the harm is mixed with moments of warmth, a really cutting remark followed by a rare, heartfelt apology. That inconsistency, that push and pull, literally wires your brain to confuse chaos with love. It makes it incredibly, incredibly hard to walk away, even when a part of you knows the relationship is destroying you. So all of this leads us to the act of separation itself. And this is where we need to deconstruct the idea that creating distance is, by definition, a cruel thing to do. See, distance is a survival strategy. It's not a weapon. And it takes different forms. A lot of people first try low contact, keeping talks short and surface level, or they might try the gray rock method, basically becoming as boring and unreactive as a gray rock to avoid feeding the drama. No contact isn't the first choice. It's the absolute last resort, the final boundary you put up when every other attempt to protect yourself has been ignored.
So why do those lesser attempts fail so often? Because in these kinds of dynamics, a simple, healthy boundary, like please don't comment on my body, isn't heard as a piece of information. It's heard as a full-blown attack. The parent feels injured by it, and instead of respecting it, they often deny it, they attack back, and they flip the script to make the person setting the boundary look like the bad guy.
The separation itself is agonizing, but what comes after, that's its own unique and often very isolating journey. So now we're going to talk about the aftermath and this really complex process of grieving people who are still alive. The term for this is ambiguous loss. You are grieving someone who is still out there in the world, maybe posting on social media, but they are emotionally gone from your life. And there's no funeral, no one brings you a casserole. Society doesn't give you permission to mourn this. You're not just mourning the relationship you had, you're mourning the relationship you always needed and never, ever got.
But right in the middle of all that grief, something really surprising often happens: physical relief. For the first time, maybe in your entire life, your nervous system clicks out of that constant fight or flight mode. You sleep better. Your jaw unclenches. Your shoulders drop. That relief, that's your body telling you that, despite all the heartbreak, you are finally safe. And that newfound safety, it creates the space for the final and maybe the most important part of this whole journey. Because estrangement isn't just an ending. For so many, it's the real beginning of building a new life and reclaiming the self they lost.
Real healing kicks in when you make a conscious decision that the generational pain stops with you. This is what people call reparenting. It's about learning to give yourself the validation, the protection, and the unconditional love that you never got. It's about learning to trust your own gut, maybe for the very first time. And on that path, you start to discover something really beautiful: the power of creating a family of choice. These are the people, the friends, the partners, the mentors who choose you back, not because they have to, not out of obligation, but because of a real mutual connection. This is where you get to redefine what family actually means to you. So if any of this is your story, I really want you to hear this. You are not heartless, you are not broken, you're not a bad person. You are someone who, after trying and trying, made an incredibly brave and painful choice to stop walking into a burning building just because someone told you it was your home. You chose truth over the illusion of peace.
And that leaves us with one last question to sit with. Think about it. What part of yourself had to get smaller, quieter, or disappear completely just to stay connected to your family? And what parts of you are finally starting to come back now that you've given yourself space? The answer to that? That's where the healing really lives.